Good day. My name is Dobro, and welcome in Escola podcast. Today, my guest is Carl Fredrik from Sigma Connectivity WSI. Hi, Carl.
Hi, Dobro. Thanks for having me. It's really a pleasure.
Thank you, too. And today we'll talk about one of WSI project, which is called Grain Cloud. But before we will speak about the business idea and things related with the IoT, because it is present in this project, I'd like to start with some informations about Sigma Connectivity WSI. So, Carl, what are you doing in Sigma Connectivity on a daily basis?
Sigma Connectivity has been developing connected products for global customers for several years now. We start from the very beginning of business models, how the products are supposed to create value, and then we support our customer all the way through product development in all aspects to mass production. And if our customer wants to, we continue even after that with product maintenance. So it's a real design house for product development. Our main customers are in Europe and US. So we are about 700 people today within the Sigma Connectivity. And Sigma Connectivity WSI especially is Stockholm-based, is our Stockholm office, where we take care of more specialized product development and business development for our customers.
So your customers are coming to you whenever they'd like to create a prototype, shall I understand? Or could you...
Sometimes they come to us already before that, or when they would like to discuss a business idea or have an idea for a future product. We try to support them when they create or test their business model. And then we work together with them for prototypes, early production or test equipment or test products. And if we see that this is a product that really flies, that really have a market, we support them in full product development and production.
All right. And I understand that one of them was Larsen Brothers, and they came to you to create what we call today a grain cloud. What exactly is it?
Yeah, the Skandia Elevator product development company is active. It's a company which is owned within the Larsen family for over 100 years. Today they develop and produce and sell grain transportation equipment for grain storages. And they sell that. They are situated in Sweden, southern Sweden, but they sell their equipment globally. A couple of years back, Joachim Larsson, the CIO, realized that a company just producing really good transport equipment will in some way not be able to keep relevant in a market where even the food industry or the agriculture industry will go more and more digitized. So he realized and he saw that he needed to add a digital capability of his company as well, and a digital offering to the product offering he had. So we got in contact, and together Joachim Larsson and I developed the idea on how could Skandia Elevator add a digital component to their product offering. And from that, the idea behind Grain Cloud emerged. And basically, the Grain Cloud concept is that we know that during harvest, the farmer, at least in Sweden, have their combine operational in the field. They harvest about 100 tons of grain each hour. So they really must know that their grain storage facility and the dryers that we use here in Northern Europe are fully operational all the time and able to take care of all the grains that that they harvest in the field. So we wondered, is it so that the farmer feels some kind of anxiety that the grain storage equipment and grain storage facility is fully operational, even though how does he know that? How much would he like to be able to control that when he is working in the field on his combine? And that was the basic problem that we wanted to investigate.
What does it mean to be fully operational within, as you said, grain facility, right?
Yeah. So when, at least here in Northern Europe, Sweden, Northern Germany, we have to dry our grains before we store them. Otherwise, they will be destroyed in a few days. So if you have 100 tons an hour from your harvest or from your combine, you must know that your grain storage facility is able to dry all that, that the dryer is working, operational, working 24 hours per day, 24/7 for a period. So we understood that the farmer might be interested in knowing that, pulling out his smartphone, have a look, short look in that one, and see that the dryer is working as it should. All the transportation equipment within the facility, the grain storing facility, is operational. So that was our basic idea, that this might be a need that farmers in Northern Europe and at least Northern Europe would have. So, and there we started our business investigations and service design.
Okay, so the first big problem you solved was providing your client with a big portion of knowledge, and having this all of this at the palm of the head on their smartphones. What can they do?
So we started off with just being able to know that everything is working as it should. And we tried that initially with a couple of interviews where we discussed with a set of farmers that, would you be interested in? And then we presented our idea for them, just to be sure that we really were after a real problem. And depending on and based upon their reaction, which was really, yes, we really would like to know that, we went on and tried to figure out how should we be able to give this information in a, for us, cost-efficient way to the farmer. And we realized that the information that is available in the grain storage facility is collected by a control system. So we tried to understand how can we get hold of that information and push that to the farmer. So in a way, we found a technical solution for that. We don't have to go into that one, but we connected to this control system, took the information to the cloud and then to an application. So there we started off, just presenting information. And from that, we have evolved the idea together with farmers in Sweden, in Finland, in France, and how we could continue to evolve the idea. What kind of information would they like to have, and how could we provide that? How could we provide more value to the farmer? And as we knew that the value for the farmer is also a value stream that Skandia Elevator, the product developer, could tap into and understand more how their equipment were used.
I understand that farmers are using this knowledge to take a very specific actions. Like, what are they precisely? Do they have some equipment to dry out the grains, or what they do exactly?
So they have exactly what you say. When you take the grains to your storage facility, you transport it via Skandia Elevator's transport equipment to the dryer, where you keep the grain for a couple of hours, or quite many, a number of hours, to drain it, to dry it down to a decent moisture level. And a moisture level where you can store the grain for a long time, a year or so even. And then you continue your transport of the grains to silos for storage. And that is so to understand how the dryer is working, the temperatures in it, that all the transport processes is operational as they should. That is exactly what you can get from the smartphone app that we provide the farmer with. That is included in the grain cloud solution. So that is what we started off with. A few years later, we also added the possibility to actually control the transport from your smartphone. So you can start and stop transports and other equipment from your smartphone.
This is quite impressive app, and the way it inform a farmer about the very detailed conditions of the grains are also impressive. But what is the most impressive here is a part, or a kind, I would say, of digital transformation which has observed, because as far as I know, the Skandia Elevator, belonging to Larsen brothers, is not necessarily a service organization at the beginning, but it transformed from the company who just provide the equipment to the transportation. So I would say they transform from mechanical workshop, let's say, to a service organization, and they add a piece of digital solution. Could you tell us more about that?
Absolutely. I think I'm really impressed of the transformation of the company that the Larsen brothers have done, or in the middle of. Actually, they have been doing this. We started this in 2016, I think, and we are still transforming the company. But it all starts with having a leadership that realizes that this has to be done. This is a change that I would like to do, or we would like to do, as the Larsen brothers put it. They would like to transform the company in this direction. So together, we created a vision of where should the company be in a few years, and what do we need to have on board to be able to do that. So, and it starts all there. It starts with leadership that understands or decides that this is the way we would like to go. We saw to that we had the competencies needed. And in this case, we searched for a company that could support us in this transformation, a digital consultancy company able to develop the software that we needed. And together with them, we created a technical roadmap on what kind of features can we develop and in what order. And from there, we started our agile project, adding piece by piece to the solution. So, but that was the easy part, I would say, setting the roadmap from a technical part. But as we started to spend money, of course, it was very important to have the full backup from the company's management team. The other part of this is how to transform the organization and the culture. We have encountered some problems in that, but we have learned that the most important part is to find some people in all the different parts of the organization that will be involved, that is fully buy into this change and see that they benefit from it, and how they can learn from it, and how they can develop themselves and their knowledge about this. And that has been a really successful way of doing it, as in most cases when you're working with change management.
How much time does it take to transform the organization in that way? Because you mentioned there is a long way from the concept itself to the product we can see today on your website.
Yeah, you were right. It takes time, and as it takes time, it's once again, I cannot stress it enough. It's about a leadership thing. It's really important to have the leadership fully committed to this, as all changes in a company. Within Skandia Elevator, we have been working with this, or Skandia Elevator has been working with this for the last 6 or 7 years. And I will say that it's first now that they have been really taking off, and the change have really started to get a grip of the complete company. But how long it will take for other companies, that's definitely up to the company culture and the change, how large the change is for that company. What I would like to stress here, that when I look upon many companies that I've been working on, and now Skandia Elevator is just an example of those, is that the tech part of the company is for the most times they are really into the change. What can be very difficult is to get the salespeople on board, as they are used to sell the former product, the old product, and now they are supposed to sell something completely new, maybe with other values than they are used to work with. That can be quite difficult. Where you also have to be really careful is how to bring on your distribution channels into this change, as they have their own business models and have to understand how your digital component will affect their business models and their value proposition to their customer, to the end customer. And as this takes some time to make all these changes, the complete change will take time. That's for sure.
So that the road can be really long, as I feel it, because talking about sales department and then sales actions that requires things like a strategy and how project need to be done. But before that, there must be some proof of concept or some minimal viable product version, and I believe this kind of prototype can be done faster. So
yes.
Where would you put on a timeline the prototype we can see as a first benefit of this digital transformation?
A really good question. I see that the first step of this change is to just be able to understand your customer and your distribution channels really well, which most cases can be at least initiated without any product. You just have to be able to have an open and transparent discussion with your distributors, with some selected customers, trying to understand their business models, their pain points, what they would like to, what kind of values they would like to gain. But later on, you have to be able to, and this is an experience I have, that even though that many people are very used to talk about abstract things, abstract products, many people would also like to have a physical product or an app or something more physical or tangible in their hands to be able to evaluate an idea. And there, a prototype is really good to have to convince or to discuss on values that a product or your service could provide. So that is something that you need to have quite early in the process, but you shouldn't start with that, but quite early in the process.
As I said, this is just the first step to have this prototype. I worked with few companies in this kind of project, and basically WSI was one of them. And I remember that when you have the prototype, then you go through the journey between connecting sensors to the software, but your goal is to have a product that you can manufacture, for example,
Yes.
in a mass production. So what this mean for the customer? Is that mean years to create the product itself, or we are talking about just testing and improving prototype for a few months?
I would say the later, that you should have your prototype just to evaluate that your ideas that you're on the right track, that you can have the discussion with the customer on that you have captured the right values, and address the right problems in a way that really solves the problems for the customer, the end customer. And you also get feedback from your distributor that they are willing to. This is a product they would like to add to their portfolio. And in most cases, I would say that this process should be able to be handled in a few months. But of course, it depends on your value chain, how fast it is, how fast your distribution channels is to consider and evaluate new ideas, and also how quick you can have, or what iteration speed you can have in your dialogue with your customers. But it should be months rather than years.
Well, I remember that the tricky part here within those IoT projects are communication between sensors and the software. In Sigma Connectivity WSI, do you always produce like a prototype of a sensor, or you use your patents already existing sensors in the project?
We use ready-made sensors most of the time, I would say. And in the Skandia Elevator case, we even took it one step further. We started from the control system, where we had all the sensor information, and we just connected the control systems to the cloud, and created a smartphone application to present the information. But in general, in Sigma Connectivity WSI's projects, we use available sensors and create the product or the prototype to begin with around it. And then we continue with all the other parts of the product development, as well as mechanics and plastics and all that as well. But that's for later. First is prototype to evaluate the other idea.
So that sounds like the sensor part is like piece of cake for you.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But as we don't design the sensors ourselves, so the sensor part, we buy the sensors in absolutely most cases. But then it's a matter of how to make use of the data that the sensors create, and make something useful out of that data stream, where we are very sensor close to the sensor, in acoustics, for instance, to understand and to filter the sound, so to say, from captured by the microphones, or if that's one of the products we have.
So in the end of the day, it sounds like the whole trick is to process the data you can get from the already existing sensors. They are available on the market, and basically you can buy them on the internet, some of them at least.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And then when you have those informations, you need to choose some right device to display those data. How often it is, like in case of Skandia Elevator, it is a mobile device. Do we have the system operating globally on the data?
Yeah, we store and analyze the data in Microsoft Azure. So, and of course, it's available globally from that point of view.
Okay, and having that in mind, is it the hardest part to get those data on a mobile device, or this is just like a standard for you?
for today, most IoT solutions that we develop today, or I'm participated in the development projects, push the data to the cloud is more or less a standard component for us. We see, of course, there are occasions or projects that the data communication is the really tricky part, especially if we have battery-powered devices. Then it's all about another thing. And of course, as always, when you talk about wireless connectivity, it's about the radios, the antennas, and all those technicalities to be able to get the data through to the back end. But that is not something that we work with every day, and we know that there is a solution. We have done that before, but depending on the product we are working on, it could be more or less tricky to find the right spot for the antenna, to find out how to make best use of the battery capacity. And
just to summarize all of that, it sounds like IoT product is not a rocket science anymore. And we have companies on the market who can create at least a prototype in a very efficient and very fast way. Few months is far enough to have the prototype that you can check out with your investors, for example. And we can use a lot of ready existing sensors. So we should not afraid to be transformed, even though this is a long-term process, because the prototype is just the start of a few years path here. What's your comment on that?
I fully agree that the technical part is with company like yours and a company like mine. The technical part is not the main problem. It will the most important thing here is that you really address a real problem, a problem worth solving. For your customer, that is, or for yourself if that is your target. But you have to be sure that you're solving a real problem worth solving. And then when you find how that could be solved, how you can address that problem, then you're almost done, so to say. And then it's a technical part, but that could be hard, but it's not the real problem. The real problem is to find and define the problem and solve it in the right way. And as you said, when you come to technology, the most of the components are already there. You have the sensors, you have gateways, you have all kinds of different modems and components. If you would like to, you could make use of the hyperscalers IoT infrastructure like Microsoft Azure IoT Hub or Amazon's IoT Core. And when you have solution providers like Sigma Connectivity WSI that is used to work with those kind of IoT backends, you have most of the components in place. So once again, technology is seldom the problem. It's about finding the right problem worth solving. That's the main issue in all projects.
So as we all heard, just find the real problem you can solve and transform your company to become a big player in a few years, of course, with Sigma Connectivity WSI and Escola, of course, if you'd like so. Thank you for today. Thank you for the interview we had, and see you in the next episode of Escola Podcast.
Thank you, Dobro. Thank you very much for having me.